Welcome back to Healthy Dogs Meals. For today's explainer, we're diving into a profound and, frankly, totally fascinating duality that exists right inside our own homes. Because every single day, we surround our dogs and cats with human foods and household products. And here's the crazy part. Some of these things can act as miraculous, life-extending medicines for our pets, while others, often sitting literally right next to them on the exact same kitchen counter, are stealthy, hidden toxins. So you really have to ask yourself, can the food on your plate actually heal your pets, or could it harm them? It's a question every responsible pet parent faces. So today, we're drawing a hard line in the sand. We're going to separate life-saving, optimal nutrition from those lethal, everyday hazards. It's all about empowering you with the real, science-backed facts. Let's get started. Here is our quick roadmap for the explainer. We're going to kick things off with pet superfoods, move into safe snacking with what I call the popcorn roll, and then pivot to the really critical stuff: toxic human foods, household hazards, and finally, emergency treatment. All right, Section 1, pet superfoods and their benefits. First up, let's quickly define what we're actually talking about here. Superfoods are natural whole foods that deliver a maximum amount of nutrients and antioxidants for a minimal amount of calories. Functional foods, on the other hand, possess biologically active components that give health benefits way beyond just basic nutrition. And believe it or not, this whole philosophy of food as medicine actually dates all the way back to Hippocrates in 400 BC. Today, we know for a fact that integrating these kinds of foods can help our pets fight disease, maintain healthy digestion, and keep their coats looking amazing. It's really helpful to look at the macro view of how different categories of human foods impact our companion animals. Things like carrots, sweet potatoes, and spirulina act as highly potent anti-inflammatories. Then you have fish oil, which is incredible for supporting joint health. And then you've got things like goat milk and apples that serve as fantastic prebiotics, essentially nourishing the good bacteria in your pet's gut. It's just a brilliant breakdown of how functional these foods really are. Let's zoom in on a few specific superstars. Sweet potatoes, for instance, are incredible. Their high fiber acts as a prebiotic that actually shifts a dog's gut microbiome to produce butyrate, which can lower the incidence of bowel disease. Raw honey is another totally fascinating one. It contains an enzyme from bees called glucose oxidase. When raw honey touches the skin, it literally creates hydrogen peroxide, making it a fantastic antibacterial wound healer. Just, absolutely avoid giving it to puppies due to botulism risks. And of course, we get asked all the time here at Healthy Dogs Meals, can dogs eat apples? Yes, absolutely. The fleshy part of an apple is an incredible canine superfood. It's packed with a powerful cancer-fighting antioxidant called quercetin, plus those amazing prebiotics for digestion we mentioned. But before you go tossing a whole apple to your pup, there is a massive warning. You absolutely must remove the core and every single seed. Apple seeds contain dangerous compounds called cyanogenic glipizide. If your dog chews and breaks those seeds open, it releases actual highly toxic cyanide into their system. So apples are fantastic. Just make absolutely sure they are completely cored and seedless first. Safety first, right? Now, we certainly can't forget our feline friends. Cats are obligate carnivores, meaning they benefit heavily from lean meats and oily fish, which give them essential omega-3s for their coats and joints. But there is a golden rule you need to remember here. Superfoods and functional foods shouldn't make up more than 15% of a cat's total diet. Giving them way too much fat in one sitting, for example, puts them at a severe risk for pancreatitis. So moderation is definitely key. Moving right along to Section 2, safe snacking and the popcorn rule. Popcorn is honestly the perfect representation of this duality in human snacks. On one hand, plain, fully popped, air-popped popcorn, given in small portions, is totally safe. It even gives your dog beneficial minerals like magnesium and zinc. But on the other hand, the exact second you add butter and salt, you are entering the danger zone. That high-fat content from butter can easily trigger vomiting, diarrhea, or full-blown pancreatitis. Plus, those hard, unpopped kernels at the bottom of the bowl, they can crack a dog's teeth, cause severe dental infections, or even worse, be inhaled into the lungs, leading to a life-threatening condition called aspiration pneumonia. So yes, human snacks can be okay, but only under very strict, very plain conditions. Okay, Section 3, highly toxic human foods. This is where things get a bit more urgent. We have to talk about chocolate toxicosis. Just take a look at the sheer difference in concentration between these chocolate products. Dry cocoa powder and baker's chocolate are incredibly dense with methylxanthines, which are specifically theobromine and caffeine. White chocolate, meanwhile, has almost zero. These methylxanthines are dangerous because they competitively inhibit cellular adenosine receptors in your pet. What does that mean in plain English? Well, it throws their central nervous system into absolute overdrive. We're talking terrifying spikes in heart rate and increased calcium flooding into their muscle cells, which leads to rigidity and seizures. It's really scary stuff. I want to burn this specific number into your memory right now. 62. It only takes about 62 grams of standard milk chocolate per kilogram of your dog's body weight for it to be potentially lethal. And for baker's chocolate or cocoa powder, that lethal amount is drastically lower. But chocolate is definitely not the only threat in the kitchen. Let's do a rapid-fire rundown of some other severe dietary hazards. Macadamia nuts, they can cause profound weakness and hyperthermia at just 2.4 grams per kilogram. Then there's xylitol. This is a common sugar substitute hiding in sugar-free gum and sometimes even in peanut butter. It causes a massive, rapid insulin spike that leads straight to immediate liver failure and hypoglycemia. Grapes and raisins contain tartaric acid, which drastically decreases blood flow to the kidneys, leading to acute failure. And finally, onions and garlic. They contain N-propyl disulfide, a compound that literally destroys a dog's red blood cells from the inside out, causing severe anemia. You have to keep all of these completely out of reach. Section 4. Household and plant hazards. Because the kitchen isn't the only danger zone. The really stealthy nature of household chemicals is what makes them so terrifying. Take antifreeze or ethylene glycol. It actually has a sweet taste that actively lures dogs to lick it up off the garage floor, and it is highly lethal in tiny doses. Rodenticides that contain zinc phosphide are also awful. Once ingested, your dog's stomach acid turns the compound into toxic phosphine gas, directly attacking their cells. Alkalis, like your standard drain cleaners and bleach, have a pH above 7 and often have zero warning odor, yet they cause severe, immediate chemical burns. And a lot of pesticides use organophosphates, which basically act as junior-strength nerve agents. And then there's nature's own chemical weapons. Beautiful indoor and outdoor plants can harbor violent toxins. The sago palm, for example, causes rapid liver failure, and its seeds are particularly deadly. Dieffenbachia, which is a super common houseplant, contains microscopic calcium oxalate crystals. If a dog bites into it, those little crystals embed right in their mouth and throat, causing severe swelling and choking. The bulbs of daffodils and tulips contain toxins that can fatally drop blood pressure. And oleander? That contains cardiac glycosides, which trigger fatal heart abnormalities. Even wild plants out on a walk, like hemlock, contain cicotoxin, and castor beans contain ricin. You've got to know exactly what is growing in your yard. Section 5. Emergency treatment and response. Okay, I know that last section was a lot of heavy, kind of scary information, but let's resolve that tension right now, because if an exposure happens, veterinary medicine has concrete, actionable solutions. The absolute most crucial point here is the ticking clock. Early gastrointestinal decontamination drastically decreases the severity of the clinical effects. If you can get your pet to the vet, ideally within 2 hours of ingestion, the very first step is often inducing emesis, basically making the pet vomit. Vets use fast-acting medications like IV apomorphine, or if you're in a pinch at home, a vet might guide you to use a very specific dosage of 3% hydrogen peroxide for dogs. Once the stomach is cleared out, they immediately pivot to supportive care. This means flushing the system with IV fluids and using specific drugs like beta blockers to control any dangerous heart arrhythmias. Now, you might be thinking, well, what about activated charcoal to just absorb the poison? Well, here is a fascinating medical caveat right out of the toxicology data. While activated charcoal is great for some toxins, it is actually highly risky during chocolate toxicosis. Why? Because the methylxanthines in chocolate, combined with all that sugar, already act as severe diuretics. Adding activated charcoal on top of that can pull even more fluid into the gut, which causes hypernatremia. That's a fancy way of saying severe, life-threatening dehydration and sodium imbalance. Treatments always have to be highly specific to the poison. So, we've covered the amazing healing potential of superfoods, the strict rules of safe snacking, and the hidden dangers just lurking in our foods, chemicals, and plants. Your awareness is absolutely your pet's best line of defense. So I'm leaving you with a challenge today. Are you ready to audit your pantry and garden to protect your best friend? Take all this knowledge, apply it to your own home, and ensure a long, vibrant life for your pets. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.